Yeah, what would you say were the pros and cons of starting your own media company in Bristol? Obviously, Bristol's quite big for media, but what were sort of the pros and cons of it?
I think there are many pros and cons with starting your own media company in Bristol. The biggest one for me is the access to skilled people, very creative and skillful people. There is a very close-knit community within Bristol that operates, and that was something that Bristol Media was set up to try and harness. Surprisingly though, I don't have any clients in Bristol. All of my clients exist either in Europe or in London, and I think that's because I have a business partner who's worked his entire life with agencies in London, so he has a lot of contacts and opportunities, and that mixed in with the proactiveness that I took towards Brawn Formula One, which I can tell you about another time, meant that most of my contacts existed outside of Bristol. But Bristol gives you a good base. It takes me 1 hour and 3/4 to get to London on the train. When I lived in London, it took me 1 hour and 1/4 to get into London on the tube. So I can have a nicer pace of life, a cheaper accommodation. I have my friends and family around. So yeah, it gives you that benefit. And at the same time as well, I mean, the labour, because the cost of living is much less, the labour costs aren't so great either, which gives you a competitive advantage when you are actually dealing with clients that are outside of Bristol. So yeah, there's a good opportunity there. The other thing is relationships. I mean, there's lots of people that you can do co-work with, and that's also a nice thing that I quite like about Bristol.
Definitely. Can we just go back to when you first left university and you got a job? Was it at Omni Productions?
That's right. God, you've done your research. Yeah.
Your first job, after university. So how did you sort of make that step back into the industry, and how did you find it after being an academic for 3 years? How did you find that first step, and how did you make the contacts?
I will sidestep that slightly and I'll come back onto it.
Okay.
So when I came to university, I had these wild visions of, yes, I'm going to be a student, partying, drinking, this is going to be amazing. And I arrived here and I was a mature student, and I probably ended up in the sort of friendship circles of people that didn't drink, smoked a lot, drank a lot of coffee, and because of that there was no partying, there was no excessive drinking. So my university experience was very much focused in terms of, you just do work and you just concentrate. So it wasn't much of a step change when I left university to go and work for somewhere like Omni Productions. What was weird was obviously getting back into a routine where you have to wake up at 8 and go to bed at a certain time. But that wasn't anything too difficult, to be honest. It was a very easy transition and quite an enjoyable one as well, because I knew people from Omni prior to actually finishing university, and I'd worked with them while I was at university, and I'd also done Kung Fu with Sam. I mean, that's how it started. Is effectively I heard about the graduate placement scheme, approached Sam and said, look, if I can get funding from the graduate placement scheme, would you be interested in taking me on for 6 weeks? And he said yes, and that was effectively it. They had a job at the right time, it was the perfect fit, and that's how I started.
That's really okay. How important would you say that work experience is throughout your 3 years?
I think the biggest thing that you have to think of when you're at university is maximising potential. Okay, I don't think that there is any magic bullet when you finish in terms of you're going to get handed something on the plate. I was very, very proactive in my time here. I made sure that I looked out for the people that I could fit with in terms of creating content. I looked at what contacts I could make outside of university as well, and I tried to maximise those as much as possible. Now, within university, you're going to create a lot of content. You're going to make films for projects that are set by the university, and I would say that that's not enough. You really have to have a passion for this, and you really have to be media creators, especially in this day and age. And as an employer, that's what you look for. You look for people who actually have a drive and have a passion and have a semblance of wanting to do stuff without being asked. and that may come through doing unpaid work experience. It may come from just great projects that you've conceived because they're really creative. So I think it's a mix. I wouldn't say, if you have work experience you're definitely going to get work outside of work. It depends on your attitude more than anything, and actually how you use university to achieve at the end.
Yeah, that's great, thanks. We did have another question that you sort of just touched on then. How important is it to diversify now? You can't just be a filmmaker, you can't just be an editor. How important is it to you to multi-skill, and especially with all the areas in your business?
Okay, I think it's really important to multi-skill. In terms of skill sets that I now have, I am a graphic artist in terms that I can design and make websites. I'm a HTML coder, although my developers would probably tell me otherwise. I'm a filmmaker, I'm an editor, I'm an account manager, I'm a project manager, so you wear many, many hats within the industry. But that's not to say that you can't specialise in something. If you become very, very good at something and you have a real passion, then if you acquire the best knowledge that there is, then you don't need to diversify. So an example might be, you may be extremely, extremely good at social media. I know absolutely everything that there is about it and all the little tips and tricks. And if you can prove that you can take X amount of investment and turn it into Y amount of return, then you don't need to diversify. I think if you're looking to have the opportunity to work within a media company as an initial stage, starting as a runner, as it were, because you probably will, even if you go to university, still start as a runner. At least having that diversification gives you opportunities. And as I said, I think this is what all of this is about, is saying, okay, here's an opportunity, I need to take it, here's an opportunity, I need to take it, and trying to maximise those as much as possible. Yeah. The people that I've seen do well from university are the people that really put the effort in, and the people that I've seen do badly at university, after university, are people that sort of just went, well, yeah, I might do this, or I think I'm going to be an editor, and they didn't really have the passion to see it through the hard times and see it through the bits where you haven't got any work, because that does happen.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I think that's most of our questions done. What we did want to do is we're actually doing a little survival guide to university in our documentary. So we wanted to ask you sort of a few jokey questions about how you actually survived uni.
Okay. Well, considering that I was living with parents at the time, so and running a business and various other things. So, but yeah, far away.
How did you survive the early mornings?
I survived the early mornings with a really extraneous bike ride from up in Redland all the way down here. So that's a very, very quick way to wake up, and an even better way to have an excuse to have a drink before you go home to have to get up the hill.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I can't think of any of the others we had actually, because I haven't got them written down now. I wanted to just talk about the buses, but obviously you had a bike ride. Well, that's very...
Do they have buses down there?
They're the worst buses ever. Honestly, they're so bad. That's why we're going to sort of do this survival guide, just to take the mick out of everything.
See, all the campus when I was here didn't have the new building down there. That was all built after I'd left. Oh, wow. And I think there was another 2 floors on the building there, and fashion was in that building over there. So it's all very mixed around at the moment.
Yeah.
What do you think about the fashion of students that you've seen around the campus now, as opposed to when you were here?
You saying I'm not fashionable?
No, not at all. Just what did you wear compared to them or whatever?
Well, I am a massive fan of hip hop, so I used to wear baggy clothes and and hoodies. Yeah, very much into that.
Sweet.
But yeah,
a random question.
No, I'm going to promote my friend's business now. If you want urban streetwear, go and check out any40.com. Absolutely brilliant t-shirt company.
What was it?
Any40.com. Yeah.
That's Cool.
One more thing I thought we should ask is just because the title of the project is Media Futures.
Oh yeah.
So just like how you see the media going in the future from where it is now, and any advice you might have for us in the future when we've sort of finished our degree, what you think things will be like.
Okay. I think the future of media is a really exciting opportunity. I remember that mobile was being touted as the big, new dawn of media, as it were, when I was at university 6 years ago, and it's only now that that's really becoming reality. Mobile is massive. I think that the other great thing that's happened since I was at university is that the budgets that you've been seeing for creating digital content have increased, and the big joke at the time when I was here was that TV was actually where the big money was, and digital was just an afterthought, and actually now digital sits in the middle of all of that, and it's where all the big budgets are going, and TV's budgets are being squashed more and more. So I think that digital actually is definitely the way forward, and that comes through with huge opportunities. I mean, you've got personalisation, which is a big thing. The whole thing around e-commerce and mobile commerce is a massive opportunity as well. And I've always said to clients that you've got to think of anything that you do online or with mobile as being part of the bigger picture. It doesn't sit outside of that. So one of the things that I've often had great success with is explaining to clients how what we're doing fits in with their business. And so it's about being creative, I think, with those opportunities. Will we have stuff where you walk into a room and it recognises your face? Yes, because it already exists. Will you have places that you can go and try and close virtually? Yes, because it already exists. So it's about thinking, what could I do that could be creative or different, or what technology is there that we could use to maximise, and then using that in ways that you see fit. And as long as you can prove to the client that it has a benefit to their brand, then I think that's the future. But I don't ever listen to what other people say in terms of, oh no, that's dead in the water, or that's wrong. Six Music's a prime example. Radio's dying. Really? So why is Six Music so big? And if you look at the BBC's website pages now for the way in which they display track listings and artists and everything, I mean, it's phenomenal. About mixing media together and information. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's pretty much.
Yeah.
I can't think of
Yeah,
anything
that's
else. Thank you
everything.
very much. Yeah.
Not at all.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Great.
very much.
Yeah, really good.